Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to A Green World is Possible. It's an online candidate forum. I'm very happy to announce that we have some great candidates here to introduce you to. I'm just going to go around and just get everyone announce themselves, give themselves a 1 to 2 minute opening statement. Then we're going to go into a round of questions and answers, and we'll see how time works out. Maybe we'll get several questions so we find out about all these great candidates and why they're running, what inspired them to be Greens and run for office as a Green, and what they hope to do when they get elected. So to start with, I'm going to go right to Sherry Wells.
All right, good evening. I started running with nonpartisan offices here in my city because the young man who wanted to run for mayor wanted to give people a woman to vote for instead of the woman who was mayor. So got rather used by the local Dems, but got bit by the bug. So I'd run for office. I was elected to the Charter Revision Commission in my town of 20,000. Elected chair, probably put up with more garbage from people than any mayor ever did. And then the last time I was running for something nonpartisan, this guy comes up to me and he said, "Are you any relation to?" And I said, "No." Name like Wells. He said, "Laura Wells." Well, my sister has been a California Green and running since like 1992 and never tried to badger me into joining the Green Party. But my daughter and I would vote for Green Party education candidates because they made the most sense on the League of Women Voters questionnaires. So Doug invited me to simply read the 10 key values, and they sold themselves, which was wonderful. I've been a Green since. I've been an officer in the party, including chair for a year, but not the first female chair because they'd already had one before. Just like the Greens have nominated a black woman for vice president before, and they're all acting like it's something new. No, we got them. We've had black women running on that ballot long before. I ran for State Board of Education for the Greens in 2014, 16, and 18, and I had learned so much about education in Michigan, I wanted to use it somehow. So I'm running for state representative. Ours is term limited, which is an abominable system, but it's good for me this year. And as I've been saying, the woman who made it through the Democratic primary goes to the same church I do. We've both been elected to office before, but I said, I've got more experience to offer this time. And so I'm the better candidate. And I expect to be a badass when I get in there. The question about being the first Green state representative in Michigan is, where are they going to put me? They're going to have to make another aisle. It's not going to be the other side of the aisle anymore. It's not going to be bipartisan anymore. It's going to have to be multi-partisan or nonpartisan or whatever. We need to change some vocabulary.
Zoom has you switched around, so I'm going to have Tom next. Tom, can you hear? Oh, sorry. This is better. So, Tom, I'm going to have you go next.
Yeah, I'm Tom Wakely here in San Antonio, Texas. I've been a I'm a United States Air Force veteran, Vietnam era, labor union organizer, community organizer. Went to seminary in the mid 80s, Chicago Theological Seminary. Was very active in Chicago politics for a number of years. Was elected in Chicago. Was the next state up is Wisconsin. My daughter was born in Wisconsin. I was elected to Lake Geneva School Board back in the early 90s. Always been an independent. Returned to Texas mid 90s, I guess. Got involved with a group organizing the Texas Green Party, and we helped get them on the ballot in 2000. had a little falling out with the Greens back in 2000. I thought, and I still think that we should be running. If you're in a I think what we need to be doing is we need to be running against Democrats. If we're in a very red district, I seriously doubt we're going to get enough people to jump party lines to vote for a Green if they're not even voting for a Democrat. But if you're in a Democratic or at least a swing district and you run as a progressive, I think you have a better chance. But anyway, that's another story for another day. Like I said, I've always been involved in independent politics. When I was in Austin, Texas, where I moved to, I didn't talk about affordable housing. I actually built affordable housing. I put in a subdivision. It was through a nonprofit, of course, but I've been doing all sorts of community activity up in Austin, Texas, the state capital. My wife and I tried to start a community development bank. And actually, we went through the whole process, raised money, and submitted a bank application to start a bank, only to get turned down by the FDIC. So I think that was about 13, 14 years ago. So I guess we kind of got burnt out after spending all that time and effort and money trying to put together a bank. So we left and kind of semi-retired and moved to the Pacific coast of Mexico. And we opened up a jazz bar, a wine bar on the Pacific coast. We're in the second story of the bar, living upstairs in the morning, drinking coffee. We could watch the whales out in the bay. Turtles would come up and lay their eggs on the beach in front of the bar. So we were there about 3 years or so until my mom got sick and was placed into hospice care here in San Antonio. And so brothers and sisters couldn't take care of her, and we didn't want to put her in a nursing home. So we moved back to San Antonio to take care of my mom. And after she passed, the hospice agency said, "Tom, you and Letty, my wife, are doing such a great job with your mom. Do you want to take another hospice patient?" And we're going on 12 years now of taking people into our home, hospice patients. We take care of them until they pass, and then we bring somebody else in here. So I think we've had about 78 people die in our home over the last, 11 years or whatever. Last death was about 6 weeks ago.
Wow.
But yeah, so we've had a lot of death, and that kind of changes who you are and how you see the world when you're around so much death on a regular basis. I mean, we're here with holding people's hands as they die. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I'm a hospice chaplain through the hospice here. 2016, because I've also been a Democratic Socialist all my life. So
yeah.
But when Bernie Sanders jumped into the 2016 presidential primary to run for president against Hillary, I decided to, hey, if he wins that nomination, he's going to need some progressive support. So I jumped into the Democratic primary for Texas 21 in 2016. And lo and behold, we won the primary. And I became the Democratic Party nominee for Texas 21 with no money and no staff, just me and an old union buddy of mine. So, but after Bernie had lost the Texas primary, we kind of inherited his team, and we were off and running, and we ran against a 30-year Republican incumbent, Lamar Smith, for Texas 21. Well, we lost that race, otherwise I'd be in D.C. And our main plan, I don't know if any of you guys remember who Lamar Smith was.
Actually, I want to jump to the other candidates before we go deeper into that. Is that okay?
All right, no problem.
Yeah. Sorry. Like I said, we have a lot of intros to get through. Then I'll come back to you on those. Sorry about that. I feel rude, but got to keep things moving.
No, keep moving.
Okay. Randy?
Hi, I'm Randy Paul. from Indiana, running for county commissioner in Monroe County. Probably the best known place in Monroe County is Bloomington, home of the IU Hoosiers. At least we used to be known for our basketball. Not so much anymore. I've been in politics, literally my entire life. My recent memories, going back so far as campaigning, handing out literature for Barry Goldwater when I was in first grade. And then when I got to second grade and could read a little bit more, I became a Democrat for the next 45 years. And I left the Democratic Party August of last year because I had grown to the point where I was tired of helping candidates get elected, particularly on green values. And then when it came time to vote those values, they found a reason not to. And then I became a grandfather, and I have 3 grandkids and 1 on the way around Thanksgiving. And I just can't look them in the eyes any longer and say, what we're doing is sufficient. We are going to hand them a planet that's going to burn itself up if we don't do something. And I'm tired of working with the Democrats where they're saying, we need to reduce car usage in Monroe County. And then this last fiscal year approved $100 million more in parking. So yeah, let's get you out of your cars. But by the way, if you're in your cars, we're going to make it really easy for you to park. It's those inconsistencies that make me believe that with the Democrats on the Green New Deal, for example, I think if they get hold of it, by the time it gets a hearing and gets through Congress at all, if it does, it'll be watered down so much it won't save a garden, much less the planet. And so I went to the Green Party and I formed it. I'm the co-chair of it locally. I'm the secretary for the state board. And my goal was to make the Green Party a viable party in Monroe County first. We're dominated by Democrats, have been for years. There's only really one party, and that's the Democrats. And if you ever see one party control over a period of time and you pay attention to it, you see just how dangerous it is. And I can give you a recent example where the county commissioners, there are 3 members to it. The 3 members asked for a 70% increase in their salary this year. And when I say that, people look at me saying, did he say 7? And no, I'm saying 70%. During a pandemic, they've asked for that kind of pay raise. The body that has to approve it is the fiscal body, the county council. I think they realized how politically damaging it was. And so they decided to put down what they call a down payment and gave them a 25% increase. When the rest of the employees around the county are looking at maybe 1.5% or 2%, people are losing their jobs. People are losing their homes. It's the point where they're so clearly out of touch. But there was no opposition party. There was nobody there to say no. And so it's been approved. And so what we're asking the county to do, and what I'm asking them to do, is trust me, trust the Green Party to put one opposition member in the entire government that will speak out on these issues, say no when no needs to be said, and talk about issues that the Democrats aren't going to want to talk about. So they're not going to talk about the fact that they approved $100 billion in parking. I mean, why would they? But I'm out there right now as a candidate, and I'm bringing it up every day. And so when I was recruiting for people to run in 2020, I had 4 or 5 people that were going to run with different offices with me. And by the time January had rolled around, they all pulled back saying, but Randy, we can't win. You're not going to win as a third-party candidate in Indiana. And my purpose for running, and what I was trying to convince, and hopefully if we do well, it will be an easier sell, is I'm not running on the idea that I have to win to make something good come out of this. I've got a microphone. I've got a platform. I'm talking about the Green New Deal every day. I'm asking tough questions that haven't been asked in the past. And what I'm hoping is that if we do well enough this year, it will encourage others to join me and try to make this Green Party in Indiana a viable one. I don't want to be a flash in the pan and do well one year and not the next. And we have a really tough road ahead of us. Because of the pandemic, we had to come in as a write-in candidate, which makes it even more difficult. People have to remember my name and my office. But I think with some help, we might be able to pull it off.
Minister Toya, sorry about that. You guys can hear me? There you go.
Hello, everyone. I am Minister Toya Woodland. Toya Woodland. I am running in the 5th Congressional District in Minnesota. Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I am running on a reparatory platform. The reason that I too, like Brandy, was a Democrat all of my life. Like I, of course, like many other American descendants of slavery, we grew up as Democrats, and because that's from generation to generation to generation, and I think stemming from FDR, a lot of our parents, our grandparents were Democrats. So when I got 18, when I became 18, it was like Christmas the day before. It's like my grandmother took me to the polls and she said, just vote down ballot Democrat. Just whatever you see a Democrat, you just vote right there. And I remember being really, really excited. And the first person I voted for was Clinton. I was 19, just became voting age, and Clinton was a president, and he ate McDonald's, and as a teenager he ate McDonald's and he smoked marijuana, and I thought that he was the coolest guy ever, right? So as I began to study more and as I began to learn more, and I learned about how he passed laws that took away social service programs, especially after I had my first child. I was in 1992. I had my first son. I learned that he removes social service programs. I learned that he signed one of the largest CPS bills into law ever, allowing $4,000 for any social worker who removed a child from the home of their parent. So, and that sparked a mass child removal here in the United States of America, mainly targeted towards American descendants of slavery. It was disproportionately targeted to remove our children from our home. I never had that issue, but I learned. I had a lot of friends who went through those, and their relatives that went through that. And then Biden, who was his friend, he offered the 1994 crime bill, which kicked off mass incarceration on a whole other level, right? And to this day, there are still people in jail. There are still men and women in jail reaming from the effects of the 1994 crime bill. There was a young man that I was in communication with. He was in jail for having an ounce of marijuana, and he's been there 15 years. Recently released. So, and now it's legal. But yeah, so I started getting started when I became more involved in the political process. I started to study more, and I became an activist because I have two male children, and so things are a little harder. It's harder as a single mother to raise young ADOS boys. So when they were children, they were growing up, and I say ADOS is American descendants of slavery. It's hard to raise two ADOS boys in this system, so I had to become their advocate and their champion in school, in after school activities, strategically finding them places, knowing where to live with those young men, and I just got more and more engulfed into advocacy, activism, community organizing, fighting for children, fighting against mass incarceration, fighting against mass suspension, just overall fighting. I believe the reason that I'm with the Green Party is for two reasons. I left the Democratic Party in the Obama era, after Obama, because of Obama, the ADOS community lost 50% of their wealth. So because of Obama, we lost 50% of our wealth, and we were already struggling. It was like he bailed out big banks, but he didn't bail out the community that was struggling the most. And if he had had reparations in place, then we would have been able to manage those mortgage payments. Those would not have been an issue. So when I left during the Obama era, I didn't have anywhere to go. I was just a person who was going to vote. And when I literally got to the poll in 2016, was it 2016, 2018, whenever Trump was, and I flipped a coin, and whoever won the coin toss was who I was going to vote for, because I didn't think that Hillary was any better than Trump, and Trump was any better than Hillary. Hillary won. She lost though. She won the coin toss, but she lost the lost the election, which made no difference to me. I think they're equally as bad. So, bringing up to today, I am running on reparations for American descendants of slavery. I am running on CPS. I'm fighting against CPS, mass incarceration, working to change the language in the 13th Amendment, universal basic income, universal health care for all, solar energy, and primarily just putting Minnesota first because no one's done that for our state in a long time.
Well, thank you so much for that. I want to move on to Duane.
Yes, sir.
All right. So let everybody know a little bit about you.
Okay. I grew up in southeastern Colorado here where I live now. I couldn't wait to get out of here when I was young and I wanted to go see the world. I went to college and started in the workforce, got bored with that real quick. So I joined the Peace Corps, went to the Philippines for a couple of years, came back, went to graduate school, got into the hotel business. And I was eventually transferred out to California. And in the hotel there, our maintenance director, we were talking about politics, and he asked me about the Green Party, and I'd kind of heard about it. And he goes, go to their website and look at and see what they're all about. And so I did that. And the next time we spoke, he goes, do you agree with all of that? And I said, yeah. So that's when I became a Green Party. That was like 30 years ago. So I've been a Green Party 30 years. 3 years ago, we moved back to Southeast Colorado. My mother has lived in this county her whole life, and she just turned 90 years old. So that's quite an accomplishment in and of itself to live in the same county for 90 years. But this area of Colorado is kind of the forgotten corner. We're out on the plains. We're along the Arkansas River. It's mostly farming and ranching community. And the people down here are really good, hardworking people, but they need some economic stimulus. When we moved back down here, we go, well, what are we going to do? And so my wife and I co-founded the Colorado Hemp Processing Cooperative. And we kind of have a unique situation here. We have an airport that used to be an Army air base, and the air base is gone. But the airport's still there, and there's hundreds of acres of land there. And the city of La Junta leases that land from the federal government for like $1 every 100 years or something. And they're striving to build a business park out there. And so with the Colorado hemp processing, we want to use hemp to bring some economic stimulus to Southeast Colorado. We'll have a tier 1 processing facility to take the plant and turn it into 5 raw materials. And then our hope is to get second tier manufacturers and processors to take those raw materials and turn them into consumer goods. And then the third aspect of that would be a retail setting like a hemp factory outlet store. And plus we would have contracts with all the growers. So we're stimulating the economy basically in four different ways there. The tier 1 processing, the tier 2 manufacturing, the retail, and the growers. So that's one way. And I'm running for city council here in La Junta. I just want to do that to help build the relationships so we can make this whole business park a reality. We also have some other opportunities down here in terms of tourism. When I was in the hotel business, I learned a lot about bus tours, and we have some attractions down here that would be very good for bus tours. Like we have Pin's Old Fort, we have a Indian museum, we have a county museum, we have the oldest rodeo for young people in the country, older than the Little Britches. Ours is called the Kids Rodeo. I think it's going on 85 years this year. My mother was in it. I was in it. And so we have a lot of opportunities. So that's another opportunity that we want to do. And then another aspect of that is biochar ovens. We want to, part of our waste usage of the hemp plant is to take any waste and turn it into biochar. Biochar can be used to soil remediation for the GMO damaged soils, can be used for water filtration, which we have radium in our water down here, and it can be used for biodegradable bioplastics. And so we want to, and also the new biochar ovens, they can generate electricity at the same time to make biochar. So we want to use all these elements to bring some economic stimulus down here to the hardworking people of rural Southeast Colorado.
Great, good. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to go back to my big view here, and I'm going to go to Steve Greenfield.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Okay, are you picking me up?
Yeah.
All right. Boy, you know what? Instead of going back through my whole life story and my activism and how I got to where I am today in the Green Party, maybe we'll get to that a little bit later. Just for introduction, I just want to say I'm Steve Greenfield. I live in New Paltz, New York. I'm running for Congress in the 19th district. I live it's basically the Hudson Valley. It runs from the southern part of sort of the Poughkeepsie Kingston area, almost all the way up to Albany and out west to Sullivan County. It's a very sprawling, low population density district. My background in the Green Party, tell you the truth, I moved here in early 2001, having just had our first child. We moved up from the city. I had voted for Nader in 96 and 2000. And like anyone else in a new place looking to make friends, I saw that there was a Green Party here and I decided to go check them out. That first night, I ran into a young man about 20 years my junior that hopefully the name still resonates in the Green Party nationally, which is Jason West, Rebecca Rotzler, and in short order, by about 2 years later than that, we had gotten together and turned the two of them into the first Green Party elected officials in New York State, which was quite a moment in history. And that was followed by the famous same-sex weddings in February of 2004, for which Jason tapped me to contact the New York City press, really based on nothing he might have guessed about my skill set other than that I was from the city. And so he hoped I would know how to reach those people. And that, of course, turned into kind of an international media bonanza that ran on for quite a long time. And of course, as we like to remind people, and it's important, I hope that everybody reminds people of this, this ended up putting a tremendous amount of pressure on the conventional power structure here in New York, at the least the liberal wing of its power structure, to act on this issue. You know, it turned overnight from a niche issue in New York to a massive issue that every liberal had to take a position on. And so it became the law in New York State, and then not long thereafter, the law nationally. And so we're still very pleased when people say, you know, what is your impact? What have you done? That's among the things that we can say, and that's undeniable. People have to sort of give props to that and say, oh yeah, that happened. I remember that. And of course, you know, if the Democrats had won that election, that would never have happened. Who knows when that particular wheel would have turned, when that wheel, you know, when that social justice would have been accomplished. You know, I got involved in running for office myself in 2002. I ran for Congress as a Green here in a slightly differently configured district, largely because I was horrified at the Patriot Act and the invasion of Afghanistan, the response to 9/11, the buildup to the invasion of Iraq. The member of Congress here, generally considered a progressive Democrat, had voted for the Patriot Act, No Child Left Behind, the invasion of Afghanistan. I felt that somebody had to go on record, get into the public arena, the need to put the brakes on this runaway militarized fascism, global conquest that we had run away on in the aftermath of 9/11. So that's how I kind of got started. In 2008, I won my first election. I got elected to the school board here in New Paltz. I was elected a second time in 2014, so I'm a two-term past office holder myself. on the school board in an appointed position at the Legislative Action Committee, which I had chaired while I was on the school board. Legislation is really my passion. It's something I study, devote myself to, advocate for in many different forums. I'm a volunteer firefighter here in New York for 17 years. And as part of that, I've become our county association delegate, and that's also a legislative action position in which we advocate for new legislation that's conducive to the volunteer fire service and for keeping people involved in firefighting and keeping their careers going over the course of a lifetime. So, you know, that's a little bit different than what people usually expect from a Green. You know, I'm an Eagle Scout as well. I'm a firefighter. I've had terms in office. I've been a legislative advocate. I'm also currently the vice president of Local 238-291 of the American Federation of Musicians. I've been on the executive board there for about 4 years now. That is my profession. I'm a musician. I hold a bachelor's degree in economics from Columbia, and I think that's pretty much the most important skill set that needs to be brought to Washington today. We have nothing but corporate lawyers down there, and the way they're acting, and I don't just mean the way they're acting towards each other, but I mean the kind of legislation that they're passing and the kind of billing that they do to corporate America in exchange for that legislation makes it very clear that you know, that corporate lawyer is pretty much the entree to politics, and I hope to impress upon people that understanding, you know, the laws of supply and demand and how markets function and what parts of our structure like medical care and health insurance don't actually function as markets, and why we need to get away and start from market models and start treating those things the way we treat public education and the way we treat the fire service. As public functions, because they don't work at all on a market model, and that our healthcare works the same way. And so I'm here basically running. It's a follow-up to the campaign I had for the same office in 2018. Which I felt driven to enter after taking a little bit of a break from running for office and trying to maybe be a better husband and father and more dedicated professional musician during that period. But the district where I live, the Democrats lurched pretty hard to the right in 2018. In 2016, they ran Zephyr Teachout, who was a good, solid progressive and has been a thorn in Andrew Cuomo's side. In our state, which has been very important, and a law professor with her field of specialty of you know, corruption in government. And then they lurched very hard to the right. A carpetbagger came up from a major international corporate law firm and moved here. He came in already staged with $2 million and raised a lot more, and swept their primaries. And their second place candidate was a West Point graduate who had been serving in military intelligence, and was actually, his profession at that time was a data miner of Twitter for the CIA. And so I couldn't really believe the turn of the Democratic Party so starkly to the right at just this particular juncture after Trump had become president. And so I felt well positioned as an office holder in this district, as somebody who had a good public profile, who was credible on legislation, you know, and advocacy, who was going to bring these issues back into the debate, into the public discourse. And so I'm here giving it a second try. It's the 19th district, congressional district, New York State, United States House of Representatives. And we'll discuss more about the issues of this district, you know, and why, what my platform is about, you know, later tonight. I guess I'd like to hear the rest of the introductions.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah, and I'm sorry. Jump to Ronnie now.
Hello, I'm Ronnie Henley. I'm an independent endorsed by the Green Party candidate for Tennessee U.S. Senate. A 43-year-old Christian from New Bern, Dyer County, Tennessee. A Penn Foster High graduate with honors in management, economics, personal computers, home inspection, and children's services. The reason I'm running is because I want to help everyone through hardships. That's why I support the 4 pillars of the 10 key values of the Green Party. And I'm looking forward to the passage of the federal job guarantee, Medicare for all, education, infrastructure, war on poverty, and the Green New Deal. We must stop voting and electing wolves in sheep clothing. We do not need any more pathological, lying, racist, sexist, homophobic, religious bigots that have a chance for the better. The Green Party is the solution. For more information, go to Ronnie Henley for U.S. Senate 2020 on Facebook. November the 3rd, vote, elect Ronnie Henley, Tennessee U.S. Senator. Early voting is October the 14th through the 29th, and I will appreciate your vote.
All right. Thank you so much. Next on my list, I have Stephen Boyle. Oh, sorry. Stephen, can you hear me? Stephen Boyle? You have to unmute. Yeah,
there we
thank
go.
you.
I got you unmuted.
Yeah.
All right. So my name is Stephen Boyle. I am a Green Party candidate for Michigan's House District 3, which is in Northeast Detroit. It's a rather interesting district. About 97.3% of the people are Black in this district. I have settled here for about 3 years now. Been working an awful lot in a troubled space as far as trying to recognize, shall we say, colonist attitudes walking in on those people that consider themselves indigenous in this space. One of the things that I've been bringing in that conversation is that we must practice respect. Respect is the underpinning of so much of what we do, and it requires listening. We can't just walk in and assume that we're respecting by opening our mouths and saying, this is what I see is needed here. Because the way things are is not evident always. As a person in Northeast Detroit, I recognize that we have a huge digital divide. Over 40% of half of my district do not have residential internet access, and their mobile access gets capped at a certain data limit, which some people can't afford much more than 500 megabytes of data in a month, which is very little. So their opportunity to connect and be part of a digital age is sorely missing. And here we've had the internet since 1994. It's appalling that we're so far behind right now in this 3rd district of Detroit, of Michigan, or Detroit. No, it's Michigan. Sorry, but we have so many issues. I am a person that definitely supports the 4 key values, the 4 pillars, and the 10 key values. Peace is something that respect is going to bring into our lives. Ecology, I've worked for ecological justice by getting pet coke removed from the riverfront, seeing that whole effort that if Detroit can remove a dirty, toxic oil substance from illegal dumping to something that's literally got an ordinance passed that's far more progressive than any of the surrounding communities, we've actually done some good work. And that takes working with our residents and working with the laws as they exist and stating where the law is not being followed. When it comes to social justice, I started learning so much of this through the Occupy movement back in 2011. I've been involved in so many of the justice efforts of this city, including fighting against the municipal bankruptcy that Detroit went through and doing the research that many of the people in my group really valued, that I could bring forward the written words that people had written or spoke or had email exchanges, and piecing the parts together. Because my background is in computers and systems. So what I'm applying is a social justice warrior is that knowledge of how systems work and how they fail. And when you got bad information in there, you're just going to continue propagating bad information. So when it comes to democracy, I do believe that every one of our people needs to have a voice. I want to have town hall meetings in my district on a regular basis, go from park to park, bring people out of their houses and talk with them. It's so vital that we have conversations about the real needs that are presented before us as representatives. So my website, just to start things off, is stephenboylenow.com. It's StephenBoylenow. I've got it all plastered up in my background here. You can see it pretty easily if you're able to view the video. I look forward to the conversation that we're about to have. Thank you, Mr. Lane, for inviting. I appreciate that so much.
And Benjamin, you're next.
Hi, yeah, thanks. Hi, James and everybody. My name is Benjamin Meiklejohn. I'm 49 years old, a Green Independent running for state representative in Maine's House District 135, which includes Bar Harbor, Lemoyne, and Mount Desert, in the lap of beautiful Acadia National Park, where everybody is an environmentalist and everybody aspires to a green ideal of living. I was first inspired into the Green Party directly, individually, and personally by Jonathan Carter, John Rensenbrink, and Pat LaMarche. I consider myself a student of the John Rensenbrink School of Ecological Politics. I've been enrolled Green since age 23 after Jonathan Carter acquired ballot status for the Maine Green Party in 1994. I was subsequently elected in 1995 to the first of 2 terms as president of the University of Maine Student Government. Hey, no fighting. Dogs. Technically, hey, bad time to fight. Go. Dogs getting in a fight. Sorry about that. They're little ones, so they're loud. Where was I? I was subsequently elected to president of student government in 1995, making me technically the first state-enrolled Green east of the Mississippi elected to public office after Jonathan Carter got status. Pat LaMarche regained party status for us in 1998, but because the Green Party had an injunction against its disqualification, she couldn't run as a Green to requalify us. So our new name since 1998 has been the Maine Green Independent Party, but we are a party and we are an affiliate of the Green Party of the United States. I'm currently the secretary of the Maine Green Independent Party, and from 2000 to 2004, I was the co-chair of the Maine Green Independent Party, a tenure in which John Eder was elected to the State House of Representatives. I was prior to that elected to the school board, and like Steve, I served 2 terms on the school board in Portland, the first Green elected in Portland, after which 20 more Greens won an election in Portland. So it's very exciting what happened down there. 2 years ago, I was a legislative aide for the House Green Independent Minority Office in the Maine House of Representatives for Representative Ralph Chapman. And I'll get a little bit into more about why I'm running and why I think I can win here in Maine's House District 135 later tonight. Thank you for having me, James.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all for those introductions. Some of them went a little bit more in depth, but that's okay because that'll actually work to frame some of these questions. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep going in that same rotation just to keep things moving. And I didn't miss anyone, right? I think that's everybody. So Sherry, I'm going to go back to you. And I wanted to know if you could share experiences on your current campaign, because now we're campaigning during a time of COVID. It's not as easy to go out and get out the vote and, shake hands with people and all that kind of stuff and raise money the way you used to. Just want to find out, how you're dealing with the current struggles with campaigning during this time. Also, along with COVID, we also have the other plague of people trying to get Donald Trump out of the office. No matter what office you're running for, they're going to find a way that, we're going to, if you're running for, dog catcher, they're like, yeah, but if we vote for you for dog catcher, Trump's going to win. So it's just so ridiculous. People are so brainwashed right now. So just wanted to know if you could share some of your stories from the campaign trail.
I have had to tell people, like on Facebook, you mention you're running, they talk about Trump. And I said, I'm not running for president. I'm running for state rep. I'm okay. One of the things, the biggest problems to me with COVID is they're not having forums. Like the League of Women forum would be wonderful, because the person that is my primary opponent has a baby face. And you compare that with, I'm pushing the fact that I've got decades more of experience and knowledge on her, and that I'm the right person now. So I don't have to say anything negative about her. Like I said earlier, she and I go to the same church even. It's Unitarian Universalist, and that's pretty activist. And we've both been elected to office, but I'm a lawyer that fits in with the criminal justice. I've got a degree in education. I ran for the state board 3 times. I've got so much more going, but these forums aren't happening because there is so much less time with all of the absent voting, that the early voting that started September 24, it's like November 3 is not the election day. Who knows what percentage of those ballots are already in, and I'm not done letting people know who I am. So not having the forums, not having as much time to do anything, raise money, get out with people, those things are difficult. But what we're going to try to do is reach the people who, they're not apathetic, but the Democrats haven't done anything for them, and they need to know that there is an alternative, that the Green Party is the alternative. And fortunately, I've been well known in this area because I've been activist for so long. So I've been working on this for 2 years, and I think I've got a very good chance. But if anyone knows someone who would like to direct about $1,000 in my direction, I'll take it.
Good for you. All right, I'm going to move the question along to Randy. Sorry, I keep turning down the mic. I'm going to move the question along to Randy.
My situation is going to sound strange, but in some ways I've benefited from all the crisis. I have a disability. I'm in a wheelchair. So the system was somewhat stacked against me to begin with. It's very difficult to go door to door. When you're disabled, there are some states in the union that would allow me to gain ballot access by, I had to get 1,100 signatures on a petition to be on the ballot. I could have done that. But then the pandemic did hit, and we just didn't feel it was responsible to go to people exchanging pens and paper, asking for signatures. And so we had to go in as a write-in. And that makes this race very difficult. People have to not only remember my name, but the correct office I'm running for. There are 2 other people running as write-ins for the council and for another office. If they put my name in the wrong office, it doesn't count. But otherwise, it was very difficult for me to attend meetings, to attend rallies, to get to places where they were having debates. Last time I ran in 2012, I couldn't get into the forum where they had the debates, and now everything's on Zoom. So for me, it's become much easier. I participate in all the questionnaires. I've been able to do interviews like this. So in some ways, it's made this easier for me. But in terms of the issues for us, we still have to get past the fact that third parties are discriminated against in this country. When I went to the Elections Commission earlier in the year and asked them to allow us to get petitions signed online. And it made sense because in Indiana, you could register online. I requested my absentee ballot online, but they refused to let candidates of a third party get their petition signed online. And so it's these obstacles that we're fighting. In Indiana, we're suing for ballot access. We think the requirements for signatures is too high compared to other states. We're trying in 2024 to get ballot access. We have to get 4% of the vote in order to get it. So we're going to work hard on that, which is why this election is so important to me. If I would win, I would be the first third party elected in Indiana, not just the Green Party, but the third party in general. and we need to show that we can do well. And so, yes, in the middle of the night, I'll concede to my wife, yeah, I'm probably not going to win, but what if we did? And what would that say? And what would that say for elections next time around when we get more candidates? So I'm encouraged. I think we've made the best out of a bad situation, and we're working hard.
Thank you for that. You know, actually, I'm going to jump sequence a bit. I want to jump to Steve Greenfield because I know he just recently had a similar situation as well. So, Steve, would you mind jumping ahead?
You want to talk about the ballot access process?
Well, you have a couple of things. There's a ballot access thing in New York that's up for, this election cycle. And also, you were just excluded from a televised debate, weren't you?
2 of them as of now, probably more. Basically, I'm not allowed into any of them this year. So, that was a big slap in the face. It was, let me take you back to ballot access, right? We had to get about half the number of signatures as usual this year because Governor Cuomo cut short the petitioning period. And it was obvious that you could not penalize the people that were already out there petitioning. So they did reduce our signatures threshold somewhat. Now, I've been running as a Green, 2002, 2003, 2011. Every time that I've run, I get challenged. And every time my petition gets challenged, it survives the challenge. It's just sort of something that I've absorbed as part of my process, that I know that the Democrats are going to challenge my petition and that the petition is going to survive because I do not submit insufficient petitions. And so it's just something of a nuisance. This year, something really unprecedented happened. They announced that they were challenging my petition, but then something secondary happened that I believe is unprecedented in the history of the United States. And I still have no idea why no news outlet wanted to pick it up. Even Fox, who you would have thought would have jumped on something that would make Democrats look like they were vote suppressors, which of course we know that they are, but since they accuse Republicans of that all the time, I really expected at least Fox would get on this story and that would help carry it to a wider audience. What happened was the DNC down in Washington and DNC counsel retained a local law firm in New York, also affiliated with the New York State Democratic Party, and actually filed in court to prevent the Board of Elections from certifying my petition. This is a completely novel approach. This was not an attack on signatures to claim, as it turned out, that I only had 3 signatures that were disqualified. So obviously my petition was as close to perfect as a petition could get. So the signatures were obviously not the issue, and I'm sure that when they reviewed the petitions, the copies that they foiled, they saw that they were looking at basically a perfect petition, and so they came up with a novel idea where they filed in court in New York State, claiming that due to the pressures on the staff of the New York State Board of Elections because of COVID-19, that they felt that the New York State Board of Elections staff would not be competent to certify my petition as sufficient. And they actually sought an injunction from the courts prohibiting the New York State Board of Elections from fulfilling its essential function, its only function. This, to my mind, represented something unprecedented in the history of the United States. Actually, the lawsuit was against the New York State Board of Elections, not against me personally to try to get my petition removed. I was able to get a pro bono lawyer to help me with that. I sent out a lot of press releases. There were a couple of nibbles, one from Politico, one from the Oneonta Star, and neither one followed through. I sent several rounds of messages. It didn't proceed, which left me sort of wondering if we were looking at a new paradigm this year in terms of media access, which I'm sure everybody out there is experiencing, that is in fact the case. The Democratic Party is spending more money than ever before and issuing more pressure to the media in terms of whether it's going to make advertising buys, whether they're going to show up for forums themselves if minor party candidates are invited. I don't really know why, I'm not a very important person. I know I have a small public profile in my district, and maybe some of that is earned, from some of the work that we've done here. But the Democrats here are obsessed with me, and I don't just mean during election year. I mean, all the time. I know that I did remove several Democrats from office who were engaged in corruption, and I made that public. I am, obviously a particular target for them. And so word went out. Some, invitations that I got early in the campaign cycle were later rescinded on the grounds that they're adopting new standards of newsworthiness for minor party candidates. People wanted me to show poll results. That was a good one. And I wrote back to them, how can I show you poll results when the polling companies don't include my name in their survey? That's outside my control. You put me in a catch-22. You've created access requirements that are outside my own span of control and that I can't fulfill. And so this is the way that the game was being played. At the same time, traditional campaigning at public events and going door to door and things like that became impossible this year due to the pandemic. I personally carry a slightly higher burden for avoiding infection than most people because I get on fire trucks every day, which is a pretty small enclosed space. And if I were to become infected, the New Paltz Fire Department would have to be quarantined and 13,000 people would be without a fire department. So I had to sort of incorporate some particular contagion standards for myself. All of this added up with, most public events canceled and basically disallowed by state regulations and local regulations. It's been, I want to be very upfront with everybody, it's been an extremely dismal campaign season. The work has been strictly through social media accounts. I've now, with 2 weeks to go, whatever this is, 2.5 weeks to go, I've suddenly got a little spate of interviews. I did a TV station that actually gave me a 2-minute, almost like to create your own commercial. Up in the northern part of the district, I'll be interviewed by another newspaper tomorrow. That's in 2 counties in the northern part of the district. And so there's a little bit happening now in the late stages, obviously too little too late. It's kind of a shame because the district this year was open. 2 years ago, we were considered a competitive district between the Democrats and the Republicans because the voter enrollment slightly favored Republicans. There was a Republican incumbent. And so people felt it was an in-play district, a purple district. This year, of course, everything's the exact opposite. The Republican Party up here fell into total disarray after losing 2 years ago. Now the Democrat is the incumbent. He's flush with cash. Every right-wing institution, every chamber of commerce is endorsing him from Washington down to the local level. And the Republicans are not even pretending to compete in this election. And so I really thought that, not really expecting to win, being realist about going into this election, because the Republican Party was basically conceding this district this year. I felt that this would be a perfect opportunity to have something much closer to a 3-way race, that the public and the media would treat it that way. But because of COVID-19 and some unusual levels of pressure that are brought about by the Democrats, because I guess just like in 2001, they've decided they're just not having it anymore, and they're really pouring resources like we haven't seen since between 2001 and 2004 to suppress us at the ballot level and to suppress us at the media level. And I have to honestly report to you that it's been succeeding. I don't count myself out in terms of despair and will I continue to do this. Quite the contrary. I want to motivate my fellow candidates out there from here in the Green Party about one particular issue. I know you've all been hearing it out there while campaigning and messages to you through social media and email, that the Democrats seem to be, the grassroots Democrats, not the national party, are always telling us that, yeah, we don't like Biden. This is terrible. This is just what we're stuck with. But Trump is an emergency. And so we're going to elect all these people and then we're going to pressure them. We're going to put pressure on them to do the right thing. Okay, this is Lucy with the football, with Charlie Brown. We as Greens, we know that this never happens. If it ever happened, I'm sure several of us wouldn't be Greens, And so I think that what we need to do is transition out of our campaigns this year and become that pressure. The Democrats are not going to do it. They're not going to organize pressure. I think we need to step into that breach. I'd like to see what has happened to us this year as more of an opportunity than we're accustomed to seeing, because that message is out there that pressure has to be brought, and we're the only people that are going to be bringing it. So I want to encourage everyone else running to not despair about what we've experienced this year. It's an unusual year, both health-wise and politics-wise, and we're just going to have to step directly into the street action leadership role, because our names will have been out there and people will recognize us as the initial leaders on these issues. So I just want to encourage everybody to take a few days off when you're done, and then get right out there and bring people together for this action that everyone promised to take.
Yeah, thank you for that. And with that, I'm going to jump right to Minister Toya. Yes, exactly. Hands, claps, because it's up to you guys. So, Minister Toya, I wanted to ask you as well, too, because you were Democrat before, like you said. Now you're running as a Green. Have you been facing all the slings and arrows and all the cliches?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Let me say,
There you go.
I was the only independent third-party candidate to go out into the pandemic. So we physically had to go into the pandemic and get signatures. And I was the only third-party candidate in my district that acquired all the signatures required, right? So I received 1,400 signatures. I'm excited. I only needed 1,000. I'm excited. I go to this is my first time ever running. So I go to the Secretary of State. I take pictures under the seal, and I'm just really proud of me. Like, I had a team of 3, and we went out into the pandemic, and we got 1,400 signatures, and I was excited, only to receive a letter from the Secretary of State saying that only 866 of my signatures qualified. I challenged it, of course. They recounted, and when they counted it again, it was only 850. They took 15, 16 signatures off, right? So, and I know. And I know that my governor could have made some sort of allowances for third parties. I tried to reach out to him, but it wasn't. I can't see any of you guys. I'm putting my glasses back on. I'm sorry. So I called the governor. I was in tears. I was hurting. I was just, because I was so excited about what I had accomplished, everyone. And it just broke my heart, but I didn't quit. I took a few days off, like 3 days. I took 3 days off, and I said, I got to regroup. What am I going to do? And so now I'm running as write-in, which has been challenging. My campaign believes that had I been on the ballot, I would have beaten the incumbent, which is Ilhan Omar, because she has not been paying attention to my state. My district is the 4th worst state in America for minorities and people of color to live. In America, we're not even just talking about Minnesota, we're just talking about all of America, right? So it's been a challenge. It's been a challenge. I have been out there in the COVID, and I have an underlying illness. I have an autoimmune deficiency. So if I catch COVID, it's it's going to be really, really bad. But because I was so determined, and I believe that this is what God has called me to do, and I just did not stop. I just kept going. I've been out, and then George Floyd happened here. Oh my God. The murder of George Floyd, accompanied with the pandemic, and having to get signatures doing all of that, it was very challenging here in Minnesota to get signatures. But I have had a little bit of media. WCCO did a write-up on me, and they did like the 2-minute commercial thing that I think Tom was just saying. And I'm in Ballotpedia, Ballotopia, about one of those. Mm-hmm. And so people are able to see who I am. I do a lot of live streams. I do a lot of things online. I've been a community activist here for a long time. So from Jamar Clark to fighting for against mass incarceration, we reduced drug sentencing here in Minnesota. I was on that. I did that campaign with other people, fighting for children with IEP, special needs in school because they're disproportionately suspended, or at least they were. Fighting to get internet access for all children for free. And I believe the school district should perform, to provide laptops. So it's just a lot of stuff that I have been doing, and I'm still working as an activist. I haven't stopped my activism. I'm still fighting. I'm the chair of the CPS committee in the Green Party. I am one of the co-chairs of the Black Caucus in Minnesota. So I'm still fighting and doing my activism all while I'm running this campaign, along with being a mother, a minister, and a friend to a lot of people. So my children, and even though my children are grown and they don't live with me, I still have to be their mother, right? I still have to make sure that they're okay. And so it's been quite a challenge, but it has been so fulfilling. I've never experienced anything like this ever in my life. This whole political process is wonderful. I'm going to do it again. I don't think that I might win this time because I didn't get on the ballot, but they said if you don't succeed, try again. I get the same pushback about Trump. I'm not running for president, and as a American descendant of slavery, I don't know why we so scared if he's staying. It's been a hard road for the last 401 years. All of a sudden, we scared of Trump. We've been through a lot around here, so I don't understand that. Like, I get a lot of pushback from Black people when we just gotta get Trump out. Well, why? With so many things that happened to us. Do you remember slavery and Jim Crow and segregation and Deborah? Do you remember redlining? Do you remember the man just they put his knee on his neck and he died? Do you remember all of that? So Trump is not the worst thing that's ever happened to Black people. I mean, we need to be focusing on making a better tomorrow for our children, not being brainwashed to be scared of a man who is just a man. So that's just my theory on Trump. I think the Democrats have gotten a hold of people and they just scared the heck out of them. But yeah, this whole process has been really fulfilling. I enjoyed it. I'm enjoying it, and I'm going to continue on. I'm going to take a break for about a month, and then I'm going to go right back. I'm going to build better, organize better, and because I know a little something now.
Great, thank you for that. And Tom Wakely, want to hear your campaign travels, good, bad?
Well, like you said, I was the 2016 Democratic nominee for the 21st Congressional District. And my whole thing we ran on was climate change.
Yeah. But I meant your campaign travels for this year, though, during COVID.
Yeah, but this will bring you to this year.
Okay, good. Just making sure.
I was the 2016 Democratic Party nominee for Congress, ran as an independent, because I'm an independent. We ran on climate change as the major part of our campaign, and we wound up getting more votes than any Democratic candidate in the state of Texas running on for Congress that year of the whole state, and had absolutely zero support from the Democratic Party because they knew I was a Bernie-crat and I was an independent. 2008, so my name is well known in the district because, like I said, I ran 4 years ago. 2018, I teamed up with Michael Cooper, which was the NAACP president over in Beaumont, Texas. And we both entered the Democratic primary to run. I ran for governor, he ran for lieutenant governor, and we ran on climate change, Medicare for all, throughout the state. So I'm very well known in the district because of those two races. And I've been, like I said, I've been involved with the Green Party for 20 some odd years. Anyway, this time around, 2020, I was going to run again in the Democratic primary, but I was found out that my challenger in that primary was Wendy Davis. And she was entering the primary with $9 million. And she's a corporate lawyer. So I decided I'm not going to do anything this year, step back. But then I subsequently was recruited by the Green Party to run as an independent on the Green Party ballot line. So that brought me back into the Green Party to run, and I'm running as an independent. All right. So we're off and running, guys. And Stephen, this goes to you. Mid-August, the DCCC and the Democratic nominee, Wendy Davis, obtained a temporary restraining order against the Texas Secretary of State to keep my name off the ballot.
Well,
So I was bumped off the ballot in mid-August, and we were off the ballot for 3 weeks. So that's it, guys. I'm out of here. I can't do anything. We shut down our website, shut down all the social media. I closed out my account with the FEC. Thought that was it. The Texas Supreme Court put us back on the ballot. So it took me about a week to get back all the social media accounts, get back with the FEC. But we were out of the race for a good month. And I think they did that primarily because they knew that I was the progressive. No, there's only one progressive. You got the right-wing Chip Roy, who is old Ted Cruz's. Y'all might know who Ted Cruz is, a U.S. Senator, former chief of staff. Wendy Davis is a centrist, and I'm the only progressive, and I'm an independent green. So they knocked us off the ballot, and everything everybody said, we've experienced the same thing. Media blackout, all of that. So, and with the pandemic, all we're doing is running 100% social media campaign. That's it. Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, all of that. The district is, larger than the state of Connecticut. Half of it's rural, half of it's urban. A lot of progressives in there, but I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here. We all know this is a climate emergency. The world is burning up. The West Coast is burning up. Glaciers are melting. We all know that. But trying to get that message out to middle class white liberals in the district, it doesn't matter. My opponent is a fossil fuel candidate. One of her former law partners, y'all know who Rick Perry is, right? Trump's energy secretary. His former chief of staff was my Democratic opponent's former law partner. And the last law firm she worked for was Chadley Henley, who has a 100-year history of representing the energy industry. She supports fracking. So anyway, all I'm saying is everything you guys are saying, we're experiencing exactly the same thing here in Texas. The DCCC has gone after Howie. They've gone after Stephen. They've gone after me. They've gone after everybody, kick us off the ballot to keep us from talking about climate change, Medicare for all, universal basic income, all of that stuff. All of the forums, like you were saying, all the League of Women Voters forums have all been canceled. There's a complete total media blackout on our campaign. In fact, the only media campaign we got plastered everywhere, is when they kicked me off the ballot. we were covered in every major paper throughout the state. Tom gets kicked off the ballot. Since we got back on the ballot, nothing.
Yeah,
so,
they're very generous with that type of coverage.
They didn't kick me off the ballot. They failed at what they were doing. So maybe that's.
Well, it is exactly the same thing. They didn't go after me. They went after the Texas Secretary of State, who has to certify the candidates for the ballot. So the same thing, Board of Elections against you. They didn't go against you. They went against the Board of Elections.
There you go.
So it's a strategy, I think, they're pulling out all over the country.
I'm going to jump to Duane to find out how things have been going on his side. Duane?
Yes, sir. I'm kind of like Toya in the sense that I feel like I'm on a mission from God, because the way this whole campaign started, I've never run a campaign before. I've never been a candidate for any office. And I'm always, bitching about the politicians, and my wife has to listen to it. So there was an article in the paper that one of the local city council had to quit because of health reasons. And I saw it a couple of days after it came out. And so I kind of talked to my wife. I said, I think I should do this. I just feel like this is the right thing to do. And so I called the mayor and I said, I had met her at a previous event and said, hey, can I still submit a letter? They had just asked for letters of intent. And then the city council, it's just a 1-year term, what's left of the term that the guy that had to quit. And she said, yeah. So so I wrote this letter and sent it to her. And the next day she calls me and she says, oh, you got it in too late. One of the council members called me on it and said that it was past the deadline, even though I thought I could slip in. And I said, oh, no big deal. Well, that's that. So then they go to the council and they go to vote on the other two candidates, and they deadlocked. And they could not make a decision. So they had to do something. So they decided just to put it back on the main ballot for the year. And so the mayor calls me up again and says, if you still want to do this, you can go out and get some signatures and turn them in. And she called me like on a Thursday or a Friday. And she says, you have to get them in by Tuesday. So I go, okay. So we've had a very hot, dry summer down here in Southeast Colorado. So I'm out walking the streets and it's 100 degrees outside, and I'm no youngster, but it was kind of brutal. But I got enough signatures and I turned them in on Monday. She called me sent me an email about 2 hours after I turned the signatures in and said, you're on the ballot. So well, what's my strategy? I don't have a lot of money. I applied to the Green Party, and thank God the National Green Party gave me $200 for my campaign. And I was able to purchase 22 radio spots with that. I got another donation of $100, and I was able to, with a little bit of my own money, get a couple of nice print ads in the local newspaper. And one of the newspaper employees, I knew his grandfather, and we used to party together back in the 60s. And so I called him up and I said, hey, is there any possibility of getting a letter to the people of Lahonta about my candidacy? And he said, yeah. He goes, I'll even do an article about you. And because he had already done an article about the other two candidates. And so he came over and we had a conversation, and I sent him a modified letter. And so the letter goes in. The next day, I'm front page, top of the paper is my article about how I need change, how we need economic stimulus here in Lahonta. And so I have not had any of the issues that anybody else has had. This is small town America. I don't know who said all politics is local, but that's really true here. It's not so much, this is a Republican area, but there are Democrats around too. And I looked at my ward, I got the list of my ward. There's only one other Green Party listed in my ward. I tried calling him, but this phone number didn't work. So I guess I'm the only one. But it's been an exciting, I just feel like it's something meant to be. And again, the only reason we're doing this is to bring some economic stimulus to the hardworking people down here. And actually, it's been a kind of a fun process, except for the collecting the signatures in the 100-degree heat. And I think we had a forum last week. The local politicians had a forum in a theater in an adjacent town, and we had all the state and local candidates there. And I got to stand up and give 5 minutes to do that, and doing this, and we're doing social media, and so that's what we've been up to. And I have a lot of confidence. The mayor's behind me, so she likes me, and so I think we have a good shot of winning.
Yeah, very cool. I'm going to jump to. Sorry, I have this down again. I'm going to jump to Ronnie.
When it comes to the coronavirus, I propose a $4 trillion COVID-19 relief package, with safety being the main priority. We would issue free masks to everyone. We would grant more funding for coronavirus research and to create a safe and effective vaccine. We would have forgiveness and freezes on many resources such as rent, mortgage, and utilities and others. And also we would have paycheck protection plan grants to small businesses. And I'm not running as a spoiler, and a vote for me will not reelect Donald Trump. Pretty much, we access social media for our campaign. And when it comes to ballot access, is that I propose to get the candidate on the ballot nationwide. We would have just 25 signatures. And if you run as a write-in, you would have automatic write-in status, which we do in a few states. And also, when it comes to ballot access for minor parties, propose that we have 25 signatures required that the party could be put on the ballot and they would have ballot access for up to 5 years till they had to repeat the process. I would love to have your vote. Vote who you want for, because that's what democracy is all about. Pretty much, my shot of winning is good as anyone else. So let's have a green wave.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to go Stephen Boyle. Oh, did I lose Stephen? Oh, no, I think I lost him. Okay. Ben, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So in Maine, the way COVID affected me probably most immediately, was in regards to our clean elections law. I got on the ballot. It's fairly easy to get on the ballot in Maine. As a party member, a state representative is the easiest position to get on the ballot for. You just need 25 enrolled party members to sign to put you on the ballot. So I got on the ballot. I decided the week before the deadline of mid-March to get on the ballot, and successfully got on the ballot. And we have a Maine clean elections law, which allows us to, if we collect, I think it's $50 or $65 contributions from people in the district to the Clean Elections Fund, then the state finances election costs. And the Green Independent Party of Maine has always supported the clean elections law, and most of our candidates apply for it. But as soon as I got on the ballot, the pandemic hit. And without being able to go door to door and meet people in person to collect those $5 checks, it made it pretty prohibitive for me to get clean elections funding. So I am traditionally financed, and I am relying upon contributions. I've raised several $1,000s and have a good campaign war chest here, but I do need some more to finish off my mailings to all the voters. So anybody out there that could contribute up to a max of $400 and $50 or less, your name is not reported, please check out my Facebook page and look there for how to contribute. And as far as my campaign goes otherwise, I think the COVID has actually been somewhat of a good opportunity for me in one sense, because it sort of deconstructs all the traditional norms about what you're supposed to do campaigning. You know, there aren't events to go to. You don't have to drive to meetings and spend a significant amount of time at town meetings. You just log in and Zoom and stay informed that way. Without that obligation of going door to door, knocking on people's doors to meet them personally, or going to public meetings and such, it challenges the candidates to find ways to reach the voters directly. And I think that in that scenario, I think I have a little bit of an edge on my opponents, because I'm a little bit more savvy with the social media and how to find people on the internet. Now, every district is different. I've lived in districts that aren't like this, but the district I live in now happens to have a high rate of Facebook participation. So it makes it easy for me to reach people, because I can track them down on Facebook. I find them, message them, friend them. It doesn't work in all districts, because a lot of populations maybe aren't as participating in Facebook, but it's pretty high participation rate in my district. So that's helped a lot. Like other candidates have said, the social media aspect. What I have going for me in my campaign, I guess one of the challenges for me is that I try to talk up my experience as a public elected official, serving 2 terms on the school board in Portland when I lived there, as well as my experience actually working in the legislature as a legislative aide. And, if I was any other candidate, if I was a Democrat or Republican, people would say, oh, this guy is a really credible candidate. And so I've been trying to push the credibility of my candidacy as a reason to take it serious and really consider a vote for Ben Meiklejohn for state representative, because I do have that hurdle as a Green independent. You have to kind of get people to overcome that pre-existing maybe bias in their mind that, well, it's a third party, it's not a Democrat, it's not a Republican, they can't win. And I try to say, look, I'm the only person with publicly elected service and the only one that's worked in the legislature. So I try to talk those up, and then at the same time, get underneath what that assumption is that people have that a third party can't win, because I have won before. And interestingly enough, my district now is very similar demographically to Portland was when I got elected there. It's an 80%, my seat in the last 10 years, generally runs, if given the choice between a Democrat or a Republican, the Democrat would get 75 to 80% of the vote and the Republican 20 to 25%. That's great for Greens. These are the safe and best districts for Greens to run in, because that 80% support for Democrat does not always necessarily mean that there is overwhelming loyal enthusiasm and support for the Democratic Party. It just means that given the choice between a Democrat and a Republican, people go with a Democrat. But so when we run, we test that formula and really call to question how much of that Democratic support is just default. It's just the default of the two. And with 20% of the vote for a Republican, a Republican candidate can't win a 3-way race with 20%. So that opens things up. It gives voters the choice. So I try to hammer that home, that I can't be a spoiler. I can't split the votes. This is your chance to break away from the two parties. Everybody's frustrated with the sort of gridlock that the two parties have. And Maine has an established history, having had a House Green Independent Minority Office 3 times before. And Maine legislature can benefit by having an alternative voice in there. So I've been doing a lot of social media, and I've been speaking to issues that are really important in my district, basically highlighting the environment, Maine's environment, as our number one asset and the number one source of an economic stimulus for Maine's economy moving post-COVID. Our entire economy in Maine is based on environmental tourism, conservation, our agriculture, our fishing industries, our forest products industries. There's very little about Maine's economy that is not attached to the environment. And climate change is huge, and Maine has an opportunity to really make a difference with climate change. The University of Maine's Advanced Structures and Composite Center has engineered these floating offshore wind turbine hulls that they could predict could within 10 years, if we install them, we could be generating 156 gigawatts per year, which, to put that in perspective, Maine uses 3 gigawatts per year. We could be powering with clean, renewable offshore wind energy almost the entire New England region, and making $20 million of revenue for the state of Maine, which could pay for free electricity for all Maine residents, and if it was a people-owned utility. And why would we not do this? It's sitting right there. The knowledge is there. The technology is there. Our national parks raise a lot of money for the state, and we have another national monument, the Catton's Woods Monument, which if we elevated that to a national park, it's predicted would raise $100 million more dollars into Maine's economy, creating 6,000 to 10,000 more jobs within the next 10 years. That's an economic stimulus. It's our environment. That's our economic stimulus. And there's also movement afoot here in the state that I support for a green bank to solarize and create energy efficiency standards in housings, creating thousands more jobs. And if we're going to honor our commitment to reach totally clean energy use by 2050, which the legislature did pass in the last session, we need to start making access to electric vehicles and electric charging stations and building that infrastructure around the state and incentivizing the purchase and sales of electric cars. Maine could be an environmental mecca. And that is the kind of thing that people in my district really, really like to hear that the Democrats don't talk about. And it's a safe district. And, I've got the experience and qualifications to be elected to this position. And it's a safe district, so green is not something that's a negative or a spoiler for this argument. And even though I'm traditionally funded, not clean elections funded, I've been working hard and raising the money. So if anybody out there would like to support me, please check out my Facebook page. Just look up Ben Meiklejohn, Meiklejohn, and contact me directly. I would appreciate the support. Thanks for having me on the show, James. I really enjoy hearing all the other candidates as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. And my apologies to everybody because I know I ran late, but you all have so much great stuff to share about your campaigns, because I've seen, like, this, for me, this feels like the most aggressive attack of Greens. It's like every 4 years, not each election cycle so much, but every 4 years, that's when everyone seems to jump on. And 2000, we saw it with all your spoilers, 2004, and then 2008, and then 16, or Russian bots, and 2020, it's like we're funded by Republicans and everything you could think of. And I think it's really important to hear your struggles and to share that with everybody. So what I wanted to do, since we're running late, first I wanted to ask around the room, the virtual room, does anybody have to leave like right away?
I don't.
So I'm going to stay with the same sequence I was going with when we did the opening statements. And what I want to do is sort of start winding down to a closing. So have you all sort of give a closing statement, but also talk about anything that you wanted to share that we didn't have a chance to go through during the question and answers, if you think you could sort of piece that together. Like, for example, mention, most importantly, what all the Greens and Green allies that are watching this broadcast right now, what can they do to help your campaign? Because, as you mentioned, a lot of it's done online right now, so you don't have to be in the same state. So if it's something with donations or helping with phone banking or text banking or just spreading, emails or whatever, how people can get involved. And also, also include like what you're promising to do when you get elected, because we're here right now. I'm sorry, I'm going back to the presidential level where everyone's saying vote blue no matter who, vote Biden, vote whatever, but they're voting for somebody that's not giving them any promises. That's like never done in elections. We always joke about campaign promises and how people break them, and now they're so garash with their behavior that they don't even have to give you a promise. They just expect your votes. So anyway. So I'm just going to go around, Sherry. So if you want to, give a closing statement, as I said, mention, what people can do that are watching this broadcast right now, what they can do to help your campaign, and, also final words on, what you plan to do if and when, well, I would say when you get elected. Oh, you're muted. Sorry, Sherry.
I put my website in the chat. It's got little buttons for volunteering and donating. And phone banking is something that we're doing a lot of. My promise, it's on my literature. I will listen to you. I will learn from you. I will legislate for you. Years ago when I was running for a local office, I walked up to someone sitting on his porch. I said, I'm Sherry Wells. I'm running for mayor. What do you want me to know? And he waved to the other chair on the porch and he said, have a seat. That's something people don't do. I've mentioned that to some of the other state representative candidates in Michigan. They said, oh, I like that. I said, you can use it and nobody's going to know that you've borrowed it from me. I will listen to you. I will learn from you. I will legislate for you. You can't do better than that.
Very cool. I love it. Very short and sweet.
Thank you. 5'6".
5'6". That's great. We should do a comedy team together.
You're on. You're on.
All right. So did Tom leave? It looks like he's gone. Okay. So I'm going to go right to Randy.
Okay. When I first announced, I said that I was not going to fundraise at all, not accept any money, mainly because I felt the people who would support me could not afford to support me. They're suffering through the pandemic. And I suggested either take care of themselves or a family who's lost their job or about to lose their home. So fundraising has been an issue with me. I also announced that I'm going to run for one term only on the idea that if I did something really crazy, really made people uncomfortable, they wouldn't even have to try to get me out. I'll voluntarily go home, catch up on my reading, play with my grandkids, and lead a happy life. But the message I think that I would like to present to supporters and to other Green Party candidates is I think we need to promote the Green New Deal more aggressively and differently. I think most people, when they hear Green New Deal, they think environment and they think of the Green Party as being somewhat of a left fringe party. And I think we really need to seriously talk, and I talk about it every day. I post on my Facebook, the jobs component of the Green New Deal. The environmental part of it is important, but also there's a social justice aspect that in my area is very important. Shortly after the Floyd killing, we had an attempted lynching occur in Monroe County, which brought the whole race issue to the forefront. And this community is a community divided now by race. And I think the Green Party, what we have tried to do is be the party where we're trying to lower the temperature and talk to each other, listen to each other, and not be screaming at each other. And I think if you look at the Green New Deal closely, I think it's the answer to a lot of problems we've had in the past, including race, including equal opportunity. And I think if we would all talk about that more aggressively, I think it would raise our chance of success dramatically. And like I said, I ran this race when I first announced. It was my grandkids that really shook me to the point where I was saying, I can't look at them any longer and not do something. And I've had all my kids agree. I said, when I'm not around, I just want you to tell the grandkids that Grandpa tried. And that's what I'm trying to do right now.
Great. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to go to Minister Toya.
Okay. First of all, I have to say that I am taking donations. I need all of the donations that I can get.
All of the donations.
And all of them. My opponents have multi-millions of dollars. They've been backed by the Democratic and Republican Party and other entities. As you know, we don't take PAC money, and so they're doing everything grassroots. So every dime that I get, I spend towards my campaign. And so I need would like to run some ads on YouTube. I would like to be able to maybe get a commercial. They don't have commercials. They're not running commercials. I would like maybe a 2-minute spot in the middle of the night when people, when people are up and, should probably be asleep. So I would love, go to Woodland for 5th District.org, www.woodlandfor5thdistrict.org, or you can go to Woodland for Congress on my Facebook page, and my PayPal link is sitting there, and you can donate. You can donate through Woodland for Congress, PayPal, or you can just go to my website and donate. But I need all of the donations I can get. And I am running for the people. I know how it feels to live from paycheck to paycheck. I know how it feels to wake up one morning and be disabled. So I'm fighting for people with disabilities. What it feels to be homeless. So I know how to fighting for people who are homeless. I know how it is to be an everyday person because I'm an everyday person. So I'm fighting for those people who didn't have health care in the pandemic. Had we had universal healthcare for all in a pandemic, I think that we wouldn't have lost as many lives as we did here in Minnesota. Had we had universal basic income, people would have been able to pay their rent and or their mortgage here in Minnesota. Had we had someone fighting for us in Minnesota, I believe things would have been totally different. I'm voting for Howie. I endorse his campaign. He has endorsed mine. I'm endorsed campaign by Howie Hawkins. And so I'm not worried about Trump or Biden. And I'm voting for Howie because he believes in community control over the police. Not because he's just a green, because I'm not going to vote for anybody just because of what they are. But he believes in community control over the police. I'm fighting for community control over the police. We believe in health care for all. I believe in health care for all, right? And he believes in reparation. He's coming with a Black agenda, streamlined for American descendants of slavery, which includes reparations. So no tangible, no vote. I feel that if you're not gonna, I'm not just gonna give my vote away. And being a Christian woman, I was always raised, to be, abstinent until I was married, or abstinent. So I wasn't just going to give myself away without the ring. So I'm not going to give my vote. I believe my vote is just as precious, and I'm not going to give my vote away without tangible. So that's why I would not vote for Donald or Biden, because they have not come with a Black agenda that's appropriate or that works for Black Americans, that shortens the wealth gap. If you want to lessen crime, shorten wealth gap. You want to, because when people can feed their families and they can provide generational wealth, and they can be happy, they're not committing crimes. No, people are not committing crimes when they're able to take care of themselves. Blacks in America only account for 2% of the wealth. Whites in America account for 90% of the wealth. And the other 8% goes somewhere else, but we only have 2% of the wealth. So that's a big gap. And that's including Oprah and Michael Jordan and Beyonce and Jay-Z. We only account for 2% of America's wealth, and that wealth gap has to be shortened. Reparations has to be a part of I believe, because it's a part of the platform for the Green Party. I believe that all Green Party members should adopt that platform, because reparations is very important for Black America to survive. The median Black income in Minneapolis is for Black families is $17,000. The median income for white Minnesotans is $60,000. We lack in home ownership, business ownership. We lack. Our communities have been redlined. They have been cut through. So you can't go into a Black community and have a store that's owned by, like you can go into any other minority community and they own their own stores. We don't even own our own businesses anymore. So if we want to cut crime in urban cities, shorten the wealth gap, provide a way that people are fundamentally healthy mentally, emotionally, financially, and spiritually. Because when those four aspects are not taken care of, and people are not well in those four aspects, crime increases because it's a fear factor. What's going to happen next? I think that this America, when our forefathers made it, didn't include us. But now this land is my land, and this land is your land, and let's make this land a home for everybody to say this is our land. Let's be one United States. So if we're going to be one United States, we have to treat all Americans, not just a few, all Americans like we matter. And all Americans will matter when we say that Black Lives Matter, and we can bring short that wealth gap and make create generational wealth for those people who don't have it right now. And so I'm fighting for the underdog, and I'm fighting for healthcare for all. Everybody has to have healthcare, regardless. And and no matter who you are, lottie-dottie, everybody needs healthcare. So that's how I feel. And donate. Go to my website, go to my Facebook page, Woodland for Congress, www.woodlandfor5thdistrict.org, and donate. I could win this if more people in Minnesota know me. So, and the way to get them to know me is to do advertising. So thank you. And this is the last few weeks, and they'll remember me, right? So I'm a write-in. Oh yes, I'm a write-in candidate. So write in Toya Woodland, and in the 5th Congressional District. It's going to say Lacey Johnson, another guy, Ilhan Omar, and at the very bottom it'll say write in Toya Woodland. Toya Woodland, 5th Congressional District. Toya Woodland. Write me in. So write Toya in so we can win. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to switch over to Duane now.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I've always been chagrined that all the other parties, besides the two major parties, are not on an equal playing field. The debates are a joke. It's just the two major parties. They don't even allow any other parties to participate. What we have with the Green Party is an opportunity to do exactly what Toya said, and that's make us all Americans, because we all have to depend on our environment. We all have to depend on our growers and farmers to make the food for what we eat. We don't have to depend on entertainers or sports figures. We need the people that really showed during the pandemic who the workers are and who we have to rely on to survive. And so we need to use the Green Party platform as a way to build up that we need all of us to be Americans. My wife says, until we have a third party, a viable third party that's on equal par with the other two major parties, nothing's going to change. So we just all need to work towards making the Green Party that other viable third party so we can level the playing field, like Toya said, for all Americans and bring everybody economic prosperity, not just certain groups. So that's my say.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm going to move on to Steve Greenfield.
Hey, thank you. Really, what I have to say right now is basically the entire theme of the campaign, which can be summarized pretty succinctly. The United States is in a state of health, economic, environmental, and social crisis unlike any seen since the years between the onset of the Great Depression and the end of World War II. Democrats and Republicans are jointly responsible for our failure to prepare emergency systems, and neither have any plan for how to end the crisis and emerge onto a road back to stability, let alone any kind of freedom and prosperity. Contrary to the myth that our problems are caused by their refusal to cooperate, they have collaborated perfectly to bring us to ruin and prevent us from getting back up again. Now more than ever, we need to reject the politics of obscene profit to people and institutions of great wealth, all of which are doing better than ever, and try something different. We've done it successfully during hard times in the past, and we need to do it again. There must be no politics as usual until we are restored to safety and prosperity with sustainability and resilience prioritized over profit. And, you know, that's kind of the pitch of the whole campaign here. And I have to say, when you look at the platforms of the Democrat in my race and the Republican in my race, and I'm going to say that when you look at the platforms of the national parties of those two parties, there is literally nothing in their platforms that are specific to the state of crisis we are in right now. Nothing. You know, there's nothing about direct hiring. There's nothing about relieving people's bills and businesses' bills and things so that we can just kind of hang on and get through. There's, you know, both parties are rejecting universal health care when the reason that we're in all this trouble is because of a health crisis. Everyone wants to expand fracking, even though the entire West Coast is burning down in front of our eyes. And no one will consider a carbon tax as a way of preventing the weakening demand for fossil fuels from lowering its price and thereby jacking its demand back up again. I cannot believe for the life of me that I'm looking at these platforms and I'm looking at business as usual platforms when we're in a time of grave overlapping and interrelated crisis. This country is in a state of emergency. Every governor, every government is declaring, it's in the media, they're using that term. We're in a state of emergency. We're in a state of emergency. Well, where is it in your platform, pal? Where is that state of emergency? Show me where you're addressing any part of it. Or does this look just like your 2018 platform and your 2016 platform and your 2014 platform? You know, this boggles my mind. And I feel like there have to be a lot of people out there whose minds are just as boggled as mine about how this could all be happening. And you know, are we going to keep incentivizing these two major parties to keep on doing this, to keep ignoring these crises that they themselves created basically for profit, for themselves and their donors? And we keep rewarding them with our votes and validating them, even when they plainly, nakedly in front of our eyes have no proposals whatsoever for anything that the rest of us are living through right now, as if this is, you know, just some kind of, you know, propaganda campaign to declare that we're in a state of emergency, but then, you know, try to offset that with nothing. So by all means, I need donations. It can be found on my donation button on Greenfield, stevegreenfieldforcongress.com. I can get together a few radio spots, social media ads between now and the end of the race and make that one last push. So please, anything anyone can do to help be greatly appreciated. And in particular, use your own social media to circulate what you're finding on our websites. Get that out to people directly. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to go to Ronnie next.
I would like to revisit ballot access. I will add availability to collect signatures online. Also, my top priority is passage of universal basic income. And I'm asking all Tennesseans to visit my personal Facebook page, Ronnie Henley. I'm the one from Newbern, Tennessee. But before you decide to vote, go to my Facebook page, Ronnie Henley for U.S. Senate 2020. Early voting is going on right now. And I will appreciate your vote for this opportunity.
Great. Thank you so much, Ronnie. The video was cutting out a bit, so apologies to technology on that one. And Steven, I'm going to go to you now.
Hi. I wanted to talk a little bit. I don't think I had a chance to. Stephen Boyle, or?
Yeah, Stephen Boyle. Sorry.
Okay. About the pandemic campaigning and how that impacted the campaign.
Yeah, that's right, because we lost you during that part. Sorry about that.
My signal went out. The one thing that happened just before, right after Michigan's primary, Facebook announced that they were going to do a political survey and offer people the ability to opt out of Facebook access for 1 to 6 weeks, which basically brings them right back 1 week before the general election. That means my audience for any digital marketing was completely taken away from me, or I shouldn't say completely, but those that opted to no longer get ads no longer were getting any kind of ads through Facebook, which is one of my primary platforms digitally. Now, I did mention that I'm suffering from a digital divide. So in that gap of access digitally, I'm producing buttons like this one, and trying to produce and get those around on the street, as well as my campaign lawn signs, and get those placed into very good spots. So for visibility, for people that don't have internet access. The problem I've got with my signs is half my signs have literally been picked up and removed by unknown parties, and I have no idea how that is happening, but it is against the law as far as removing political signs from visibility. One of the you asked us to go after some more things as far as closing statements. One thing that I'm very keyed on is taking care of the fight for our poor people in this city. We have so much oppression. Our children are supposed to take classes online, and yet if so many people don't have access, how are they going to take classes? How are people going to find work? And our transit system, thankfully, they've lifted the fees on it. However, our east-west buses across the Detroit area don't operate on a very good schedule. Oftentimes can be found missing, and that becomes a difficult thing for access to jobs as well as any opportunity that you're looking for travel. So I'm curious what's going on with our ballot, or our polling places. Our polling places have been in an upheaval since the March. The pandemic basically switched people's polling place. March we had our early the presidential runoff, and then we had our primary on August 4th. The August 4th primary was not in the same polling places as people normally would find them, and this general election also is not in a typical place either. The good thing that Detroit has done is opened up 30 ballot boxes across the city and 23 locations where people can literally walk in, change their address, register to vote, and vote all in one visit. So I really want people to realize early voting is a very real thing within Detroit. It's an awesome opportunity to get people voting. My biggest concern right now with this whole divide of our poor people is they just don't know. How is the city actually getting the information to them? One, that a polling place has changed. Two, that you do have access to early voting, because a lot of our the literature that we get out from the city, it doesn't show up that often, and some people they don't check their mail very well. And I'm going to be honest with that. It doesn't happen. Suburban America is very different than urban America, especially our most poor communities. Many of us don't have a car. We don't have good insurance rates. Redlining is it's definitely happening all around Detroit. People are having to spend more on having a vehicle in their driveway than on a house. And our housing stock right now is going through the Detroit Land Bank, and we've had overtaxation of $6 million on our property taxes over the past 5 or 6 years. Now, on top of that, they want to do a demolition and rebuild proposal, but the problem with that is the slush fund that has been used is going to try to be moved from the land bank entity and into the city of Detroit. And Detroit, thank you to our independent reporting journalists, won the Golden Padlock Award for the secrecy that our mayor has put our city under. We need to break through that padlock. We need to get transparency. And one of the things that myself, if I am elected as our state representative for the 3rd District, I'll be putting a camera in my office, and every lobbyist that wants to walk into my office is going to be on camera, and everybody's going to know what's going on through my office, and I'm going to talk with people. And nobody's going to want to walk into my office, but they're going to have to deal with me on the floor. So please, my website is Stephen Boyle. It's StephenBoylenow now.com. And I'll tell you, my strategy is a little more long-term. I did run in 2014 for U.S. Congress in the 14th District. I lost on that race. I came back a few years later now. My strategy is this year state representative, next year possibly city council, and then the following year state representative again. I'm determined. It's time for representation to happen, and I think I could be that best representative for our people. Better than the millionaire that moved as a carpetbagger into Detroit to take an office. I'm facing a millionaire, and I'm a pauper. My pandemic money is what I'm running on in this campaign. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And last but not least, I'm going to go to Ben.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, thank you. The strength of our party depends upon us electing Greens to be able to make public policy, to transform public policy, to implement our values. It's my hope that in the viewing audience here or wherever this video may circulate, that there may be some people out there, Greens or otherwise, who are inspired by all the candidates we've heard tonight and inspired by what the Green Party offers as a potential for our future. And if you are one of those people that perhaps may not be able to run for office yourself, or maybe you're not activist and you can't go collect signatures for people, but you have the means to support all the candidates we have today. If you have the means to, I would ask you to please support all of the candidates that you've heard today to whatever extent you can. Getting elected is what we need to do to grow this party. So I'm hoping there's some green angels out there that can come through. In regards to my campaign, I think I have some unique circumstances in my campaign that make it the Ben Meiklejohn for State Representative campaign of national interest. The first being that Maine has set a historical precedent of seating Greens in the state legislature several times in the past, and we need to build upon that momentum and continue to put Greens in the legislature. Secondly, I'm living in a district that is enormously independent, it's enormously environmental, and it's a safe district. And thirdly, I think I've demonstrated to the voters that I'm a qualified and credible candidate with the experience to serve, as well as any Democrat or Republican could do in the same position. If you can support my campaign, please check out my Facebook page. I'll put my sign up so that you can pause the video when watching this later. And if you can contribute up to a maximum of $400, the easiest way is to PayPal benforhouse@gmail.com. That's benforhouse@gmail.com. Or you can go to my Facebook page by putting in my last name. You'll find me immediately. And there's some posts on there with some information about how to send a check or something of that nature. But I am running to win, and I'm running to serve the people in my community in the legislature to implement some policies of clean energy, environmental preservation, increasing and making greener our transportation options in the state in realistic and real ways that are possible if there is a will. The people in my district say over and over again that they feel the two parties are infrastructurally incapable of responding to the needs of people and planet at a fast enough pace to make a difference when it matters. So we got to do something about it by stop electing Democrats and Republicans. So when we have opportunities to elect Greens, we need to get together and support those Greens who are running and support their ability to get elected, and do more than just, run to get a message out. So if you can support, if you're out there listening and you can support with financial contribution to any or all of us, please do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll start to wrap up. And I feel very bad. Oh, sorry. Thank you very much. And with that, we'll start to wrap up. And I feel very bad right now that I didn't get to officially say goodbye to Sherry and Tom. They jumped off the stream. But thank you, everyone else, for participating tonight. I'm going to try my best to go through this footage and give you individual clips from this, to see if it helps you in any way with your promotion and marketing needs. It sounds so official and corporate. I don't like it that way, but help getting the word out about your campaigns. So with that, I'll just say goodnight because I know we ran really late, and my apologies for that. I'm a very bad moderator and tech guy, but thank you all for your time, and I really, really want to see you all get elected and in office. And like you said, it's so important to have the Green Party running for office and getting elected to help push those policies to move everything in the direction it should be, because the Democrats aren't doing it. They haven't been doing it for the last 20 years. And their only campaign platform is "we're not the Republicans," and it's just not acceptable now with the way the world is going. So thank you once again, and I hope to talk to you in person one day.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for
Here. Thank you. I had a good time, and I enjoyed listening to you all, and I thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And if we can all get to the House and get to the Senate and get to our respective office, can you imagine the change that we could make in Washington with us, the people who are on here, and Lisa Savage going to, oh my God, like I think that things could happen. Like we could do some real good in Washington as Greens. So I'm going to be, as a minister, I'm going to be praying for you and myself. And I'm just, thank you so much. It was nice meeting you all.
Good luck to everyone.
Yes, yes. Great meeting you all and hearing from you.
Thank you much.
Okay. See you, everyone.